So let's get to some news of the day, get you guys going this morning. You know, yesterday was election day. Everyone is thinking about elections. It's the morning after. What happened? We have results on abc10.com. There was one really interesting election. There was a judge recalled. You guys remember the story about Brock Turner? I love how she's corralling Coco right now. You guys remember the story of Brock Turner? He was the college student. I forget which college. He was a college student who was convicted of sexual assault of a young woman in college. So there was a judge who only gave him 6 months in jail. That judge has been recalled. It set a precedent. It's like, well, not a precedent. I'm sure it's happened before in history, but it's very rare. Voters got something on the ballot, got an initiative on the ballot. They said that this sentence wasn't harsh enough. This man committed sexual assault on a young woman, and he was convicted of this. And you only give him, it's like a slap on the wrist, they said. What are you guys thinking about? What are you guys thinking about that? Chime in on the comments. Anything else election related, we're here to talk about it all. But what are you thinking about this case? A judge is actually recalled. He was on the bench. They said, you know what, we need to get him out of there and get someone in that will uphold our values. What are you guys thinking about that?
This was a really interesting case. We all remember this. And by the way, the reason why we're talking about this is that this is trending in a number of different social media platforms in multiple ways. Either it's Brock Turner himself, which is you see in the video, that's the Stanford swimmer that was convicted of that crime. He was sentenced to 6 months by the judge, but I believe he served much less time than that. But, you know, this is one of these cases that just resonated with people, especially when the victim had a letter read talking about her experience and what this did to her and her life and her outlook on everything. And it was powerful. It was moving, and you know, and I think we all kind of collectively thought that this swimmer was going to do a lot of time.
Sort of a common sense.
Exactly.
6 years is what the prosecution was asking for.
Yeah, a lot of people were shocked, and I didn't even know that this recall effort was going on until a few days ago. One of my Facebook friends wrote a lengthy post on defending the judge's decision, because in his mind, what he was going with was the recommendation from the probation office, meaning that they looked at what typically a sentence would go for this kind of crime with this kind of background for this individual. No priors, he was intoxicated, a number of different things, meaning that this may be too harsh for him to go to prison for a long time, would change his life forever, and it might be, the punishment might not fit the crime in their view. And so the judge then looked at that and agreed with their recommendation. And his whole point and why he was fighting to not be recalled, and he only recently did interviews, was that he was saying, look, I cannot be a judge and be influenced by public opinion. I need to go with the letter of the law and the way that things are set up in the judicial system. And he does have a point that some of these cases, these high-profile cases, emotions get involved. People that have no experience in the courtroom with how things typically go,
I hear you.
They interject their opinions, and they're out for blood, and they want to, they want this guy to go away forever because we have this emotional reaction to what happened. But he's trying to temper things down and just go along with how things are normally done. I would just say this case struck a nerve with so many people that after the sentence went down, many people felt like it was too light. And when you have that reaction, when you're emotionally invested with something and it doesn't go the way that you want it to, your initial reaction is, well, what can I do about it? Well, somebody started the recall immediately after this judgment went down, and it was successful to even be on the ballot, number one, and then now it's successful that he will be recalled. And by the way, this is very rare. This is the first time in California
since
1932. This just does not happen.
In our lifetime, right?
And I believe that this is people saying, you know what? The way that it's usually gone down with this kind of sentence for this kind of crime, with anybody other than Brock Turner, okay, if that's the way that it's normally done, this is how we are going to vote against the status quo. And the judge is caught up in with going along with what's normal, and people are saying to future judges, forget about what the normal recommendation is. We are demanding a harsher sentence for this kind of crime. And I believe that that's what the voters in that county are trying to say with this recall, because it's so rare for this to happen.
Oh, they said that last night. That is exactly what the point that they wanted to get across. I want to get to some.
You see the comments, Jessica Downey?
Oh yeah,
white class privilege. That's the big part of the conversation.
That is that's what I wanted to talk about. You know, a lot of people when they saw this initially, 2016, when we saw this crime, you see so many people. And I'm just going to take it there in different courtrooms. I come from Louisiana. There's a different, when something like this happens to a black suspect.
If it would have been a black man in this position.
I'm not saying that that's always the case, but there is a trend. It seems, from my point of view, there's always, when there is a black suspect in this situation. I think the prosecution was calling for 6 years. Typically, all 6 years are served when you are a black person. Someone said that there was too many commonalities between the judge and Brock Turner. I think they both went to Stanford. They both played lacrosse. So people wondered whether or not, you know, like, oh, maybe he felt for him, or maybe they were. My computer just turned on. Thank you. We are how far into this show? 10 minutes, and we just are now cooking with fish grease. But you have to think about stuff like that. So I appreciate. What I appreciate so much about this story is that the people stood up. They made their voices heard, and they were like, no, this is wrong, and we want to stand together on what we are calling right, and that is to get that judge out of there. And when I think about the victim in this case, when you know that someone could have gotten 6 years for changing your life, as a sexual assault victim, I cannot imagine what she's going through every day. When we hear about the victims of the East Area rapist case, they thought about this man for decades after this happened. He left an indelible mark on this woman for the rest of her life. And this was a public case, so this whole thing was out there.
She wants justice.
Exactly. Not only does she want justice, but there has to be some sense of healing. And I think that the healing can begin. The wrong that she may have felt that occurred may have been made right.
Right, and a lot more comments are coming in, so I want to get to them. Angelia Palazzolo says, money equals freedom in America. Again, going to the white privilege that people describe Brock Turner as, someone with. Sherry Tyler Ackerman, I absolutely agree with this 100%. It should not have gone on this long. This judge was 100% wrong and should be barred from judging. And then you said, or you have Nina James Joseph Olagu, who says, now get the DAs out. David Wong, I'm glad the judge was recalled. Best case scenario, he has to bag groceries for the rest of his life. That's what he's considering the best case scenario. He should have been recalled as soon as he made that decision, says Lori Russell. Should have been done sooner, just like the mayor of Stockton, says Carlos Reyna. And so people are going on, he should have been gone, says Deborah. Then let's change the law, Sherry Tyler Ackerman suggesting.
Right. And we're hearing a lot from our viewers. They're feeling the same way. And that is so comforting to hear. It's like, no, we're standing together against this. It's like we have that unified voice. I wonder, is there anyone who sees it from the judge's perspective?
Right.
I mean, I can understand, you know, if you're a judge in the courtroom every day, you need to do what you do. You're an expert. He's certainly qualified to be a judge and has the experience. But I think, you know, and to stand up and say, I will not be swayed by public opinion, you know, you're representing the people as a judge, and the people were demanding something within the range. They weren't demanding more than what the harshest sentence were. They weren't demanding the death penalty. They were saying this crime was so horrific. And I want to go back to the details because I think that that's really important. That what stood out to me about this was immediately after this happened, everybody referred to him as Stanford swimmer. Okay, that's part of what his life was, but he's accused of a very serious crime. So much that and there's his mugshot, which by the way was another weird thing about this, was that there was another photo used for a long time and people were demanding the mugshot. And it wasn't released until the very end. And that was another case adding ammunition for that this case was just treated differently. I mean, anytime you get arrested for anything, you can get the mugshot almost that day. From whoever, from whatever county jail that individual's in. Anywho, there were two bystanders that were witnesses to what was going on, and they thought what was going on was so wrong, and they said that they were traumatized by what they witnessed, and they had to intervene to stop this while it was happening. So it's not like, and when the judge, you know, with his reasoning, and he's got a very long written account of why he ruled the way that he ruled is he indicated that, well, both individuals were intoxicated. And I understand that from one point of view, but it's almost like victim blaming in a way.
Yeah.
Well, she should have known.
It's not the biggest factor of all, but it is a factor that both individuals were intoxicated. And that made me pause, because you have to, when you hear her letter, when you hear her words, yes, she may have been drinking, but nobody deserves something like that.
No one deserves that.
And the people certainly in that county, because we didn't vote on it. It's not a judge in this area. It's in Santa Clara County. They decided for the first time since 1932 to recall a judge.
That is historic. Please, I was going to share, but you go first.
Okay, so Denise Cunningham Troya just chimed in. She says, I agree for the recall and in solidarity with the victim. However, I have always said to my 3 daughters, don't drink so much to render yourself unprepared to take care of yourself. Going back to what you were saying, people, is that victim shaming, or is that holding yourself accountable?
Let me tell you this. I guess I'm my nieces and nephews. I think Brianna's 18.
The one that's staying with you?
The one that's staying with me over the summer. I try to be very involved in. I have no kids yet, right? So I try to be very involved as an aunt and a big cousin. And I have teenagers, like everybody's like 21 and under. And I tell the ones that are of age, like, you're getting to this place now where you're going out, you're hanging out at parties. I did the same things, and I want you to be responsible. If you are with someone, and I had to have a very, very, very open conversation with my little cousins, like one was 20 at the time and one was 18. Now that you guys are going out to these parties, if you are with a young lady, and I don't know if it was this case, but it was a case in the news that we were talking about. If you're with a young lady and you have been drinking, or she's been drinking, be careful, because she's not in a position to make the best decision, and what you want to do is just remove yourself from that. And I don't want to blame the victims, I don't want to blame them, but I'm just like, hey, let's think clearly. When you are drinking and you're young, things can happen. You will make one mistake and it will ruin your life, and it's not worth it. That one night of an indiscretion or partying or having fun, as they would call it, could ruin your life.
13 Reasons Why, which is that series,
I still need to watch that,
on Netflix. Season 1, I haven't watched season 2, which came out recently. And Selena Gomez, the singer, is behind it, and really helped me understand what it's like in 2018, or whenever this was set, which is more modern times, than how different it is now, because of social media, because of how easy it is to say, for a young woman, it's the pictures, that you need to be careful about, because those never die, especially if they live on the internet. And it was in that series, it was one photo that triggered this bullying, because it was something that she didn't want out there, something personal of her body, and that really spawned her in the end to kill herself.
That's so sad.
And so this whole series shines a light on that. And it makes you, like, so many things go through your head as a person who's, wanting to be a mother one day. You go, gosh, these times are so harsh, because these girls are experimenting, these boys too. They're out there, they're experimenting like we all did. But now there's that extra level of insecurity out there, and then your life can be changed. And in this case, unfortunately, we will never know
everything,
all of those tiny, minute details. But just how life-changing it was for her. And so going back to what one of our viewers was saying about holding yourself responsible, how do you sit down and have that conversation, not only with your girls, but with your boys too, about not taking advantage?
That was, again, the big cousin conversation that I had with him. It was like, hey, you be careful.
Because girls can take advantage too.
And very bluntly, and again, I'm not a mom, and even if I am, when I become a mom, I'm going to make mistakes. But I was very honest. If this young lady has been drinking and you guys engage in some activity,
I see what you're saying.
And she wakes up the next morning, if she
did not consent,
she didn't consent, or if she says something, that's on you. What are you going to do in that case? You don't want to go to jail.
Against hers.
Like, you don't put yourself in this situation. It was the point I was trying to make. And I don't even know if I've asked their permission from their parents to have these conversations with them, but I appreciate them bringing these situations to me. But those are, I try to be very honest with them. But then again, I'm not their mom, so I think that we can have a conversation.
Right. And more comments coming in and people being anecdotal. So thank you so much for being open. Karen Davis says, when my daughter and her friends first started going out, they had a rule that they always had a designated driver, and they always stuck together. The only time something happened was when the person who was drinking too much did not listen to the one that wasn't drinking or the other girls and stayed with them when they didn't stay together, or something did happen. always stick with the friend is the bottom line there.
Right.
That's the girlfriend code.
That's the girlfriend code. Lauren,
Right. You go out
Wakessa,
together, you come home together,
You come
because
home
nothing
together.
good's going to happen.
No, because
When you
it's
get
guilty,
separated.
and guilty by association too. Because
Yeah.
if you went out with said friend and something happens to said friend, parents are calling you. I mean, there's a responsibility across the board.
Right.
Lauren Wakessa, so thankful for that. That girl had her life stripped from her with his disgusting actions. Thankful that this judge has been recalled. Kimberly Morgan, a loyal viewer, thank you, Kimberly, saying, I give my daughters the watch what you say/do when they're at parties. My oldest is in high school now, and I talk to her all the time. I talk about scenarios like that. If I can prevent a situation from happening then, I'll sleep peacefully knowing that I had that talk and my girls are responsible. If something, God forbid, something like this happens, I will never, ever blame them for that. So going back to the blaming.
Yeah,
and
you
the
know,
victim shaming.
there's drinking in excess where you make bad decisions. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So there's a bad decision, and that's unfortunate. And then there's a bad decision that's a really heinous crime that destroys somebody's life forever. And there's a stark difference between the two.
Very big. But you know, when you're drinking, those lines get blurred. You know, a bad decision was I had too much to drink and I drove. A bad decision could be I had too much to drink, I drove, and I ended someone's life. Now,
Right.
I'm going to get into the comments here because I saw something from Walt Gray as he walks around
Yeah.
in the newsroom, and I see a viewer comment who wanted to know because I was very curious. Walt Gray said that there was a lot about this case that we don't know. He's coming over here like I'm calling him to the carpet. But me and Lauren want to know.
This is something that I think Rob and I had a discussion about, and it's probably our only argument that we've ever had.
The only?
Well, I think so.
Okay.
But in this case, for the facts to be completely out is, just so people know, the guy, Brock Turner, who was accused and convicted of rape, never took his clothes off. Is everybody clear about that? The word,
Right.
the word
Sexual
According to
assault.
who?
the word. This is what is
The charge
this
is
is the
sexual
fact.
assault. So we have to define sexual assault.
The word rape covers many, but I'm only saying, do people, and this is why maybe Judge Persky had a limited sentence to begin with on this.
Because
And
he
I'm not-
was based off of the information
Because
he had.
the information is technically is rape. However, what was used was, to be blunt, was Brock Turner used his hand. He never took his clothes off.
Does that make it less?
That determines in the eyes of the law that's rape. I'm only saying that there are a great many people who hear the word rape and they assume it is something different than
Sexual
what Brock
activity.
Turner did. Does that make
I
sense?
hear you.
Yes.
It absolutely makes sense.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you for clarifying.
But go ahead.
I still stand on my
Your
position.
position is okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
To be touched against my will, whether I'm incapacitated or not completely present,
Are we
and
sure?
it's not something.
Correct, for you. I'm not,
Okay.
at the time, we all weren't there.
Okay.
So I don't know whose will was against or whose wasn't at the time this was going on in real time. The only thing I'm saying is to qualify what happened here technically was rape, but for the most part, I think people assume and associate that word with one thing, and in this case it can be many things. And I think everybody who has been extremely critical of Judge Persky probably didn't see all the facts and information that he had. They just heard the word rape and immediately assumed that it was something other than what happened. Because I was very surprised when I actually went through the case.
That changed your perspective?
It didn't change my perspective, but it surprised me a little bit that the word rape can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
Where, and I keep repeating myself, it doesn't necessarily mean what I think conventional thought is on all that.
Right, and that is an important distinction. But I would say the impact on the victim is going to be the same in their words. For example, let's just say, and this is not totally fair to come up with something else to equate it, but let's just say that there is a molestation case that happens. One case happens with a man's penis, one happens with the hand. The impact on the victim is the same.
Yes.
So there's a distinction.
I'm not contesting that at all.
Exactly.
I'm
So
only contesting
I see your
that
point.
people in the
I see it, yeah.
viewers, posters, and Facebookers hear one word rape and they assume it to be one thing. And in this case, that's not what happened, perhaps, of what they thought happened.
And I want to clarify, the charge is sexual assault. And so whenever, as a journalist, whenever I hear a sexual assault charge, I automatically think that the definition is broader. It's not rape. It is sexual assault. So he was charged and convicted of sexual assault. So I guess we can Google sexual assault and get the exact definition for you guys.
And he, let's put it this way. The judge had all the facts, and he's a judge, so he knows the distinctions. And he had a choice of the range of possibilities to the crime specifically that he convicted, with the details of intoxication, a hand versus a penis, with all of those things laid out before him, doing this as a profession day in, day out, having seen probably cases somewhat similar to this. I don't know exactly, but he had a choice of, you got the low end of the spectrum or you could have the high end of the spectrum, and he went relatively low.
He went 7 months.
So do you think it was fair that he's been recalled?
All I'm saying is he went low based on his information, and people went bananas about the decision, and I'm wondering if they went bananas because they assumed it was something other that happened, and then it's like, oh my gosh, this guy was sentenced to 7 months by a judge who allowed this rape on campus, per se? Yeah. Of course everybody's going to go crazy. Well, when you read it, though, you go, oh, 7 months? I mean, he had all the facts, but people are like, how could you let a rapist off after a sentence of 7 months? But I just wonder if everybody who had this groundswell of hate for the judge knew all the facts of the case.
Let's ask the question. Did you guys know all the facts before formulating an opinion? I want to go to these opinions really quick.
Now that you know the facts, does that change your opinion?
Go ahead, read it.
Well, Jessica says, thank you, Walt, for clearing that up. Being through the system myself, I know. Jessica says it's equally damaging. Evelyn, you can use any part of your body, but don't violate it.
I didn't approve you violated me.
Hi, Coco. Okay, that's great.
Committed the act of rape. So the general consensus, but it's only 3 comments right now, saying, okay, thank you for the details, but
all the facts.
Hands, penis, whatever it may be, if rape is rape to the victim, who, according to the letter, life-changing, then that's the case. But interesting.
I have no beef with however people feel. I have no beef about anything other.
Yes.
I only ask for the people that voted to recall the judge. Do you know all the facts of the case that caused you to scream for his head?
Yeah.
Because it seems like 7 months is a pretty light sentence for something that people assumed was rape. He had all the facts. And I just wonder if all the people who screamed for his head had all the facts.
Well, Malcolm Javier says he could have given him more. I read the judge's ruling. He used the woman's statement against her when she used the phrase, quote unquote, the damage is done.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Everybody do their homework. I mean, if you're going to vote.
Doesn't change my opinion, says Carlos.
That's great. If you're going to vote to recall a judge, if you felt that information was enough, God bless you. That's awesome. I just hope that everybody who screamed for the judge's head knew what the facts were in the case. And if you still were upset about it, awesome. Go for it.
That's why it's so important to know, be an educated or an informed voter. Don't just go and be like, oh, I'm just going to go blindly voting and doing things, because you will change the course of even history, or at least these young people's lives, if you don't have all of the information. And that judge's life he's lost his career at this particular point. Again, personally, I don't have an opinion as a journalist, but it didn't change my opinion of the ruling. I am still glad that the people stood up and united together behind what they thought was wrong. But I do hear you on that. Did they have all the information?
And it's not like he let the guy go. What if he didn't convict the guy at all? Yeah. He still convicted him for 7 months, and he's still out of office.
People are just saying,
what would the people have done if he had not convicted him at all? Would he have been hung? I mean, he did get convicted. So even that wasn't enough for 7 months. I mean, it's not like he just said, you didn't do anything, you're free to go. He recognized there was an issue there.
In this particular case, I feel like, it was a man making a decision on a very sensitive subject for women, and maybe we had more of a female perspective. Because does that resonate with anybody else besides me? Like, had it been a woman judge, do you think that it may have been just 6 months?
I don't know. I mean, it goes to the question of, because he went to the same school and because they played the same sport. I mean, everyone's going to have their opinion, but I would hope as a professional judge that you know that you could potentially come across cases like this where you have to remain fair.
I just think this, we're connecting dots where we see them all on an individual scale with our life experience and everything else. But, if you keep it in the courtroom, okay, the prosecutors have a task. They need to prove their case. Okay? They prove their case, guilty. And their recommendation, so now that they've proven their case, they say, with what we have proven, we think he should get 6 years, Judge, but you make the call.
He makes the call.
Exactly. The jury recommends, and then the judge sentences. So with all that said, with what the prosecutors were able to prove in court, they said, we think he should get 6 years with knowing everything that we know about this case. And the judge decided, no, I'm not going to do 6 years. I'm going to do 6 months, and he was out in 3. So there's a combination. He didn't have any influence on him getting out earlier, but I think it's the combination of everything that just led to people saying, sitting at home, watching this from a distance, maybe knowing all the details, maybe not knowing all the details, maybe assuming things that aren't there. They decided that this was not harsh enough, and they do. And he says he doesn't want to be influenced by public opinion. You're a judge.
You're an elected official.
You are able to be recalled by the public.
I think the judge went against public opinion. To me, if I'm the judge and I want to get out of this scot-free, I'm going to give him 5 years minimum and go home, and nobody's going to beef that. What he did was, in his he could only get grief for the sentence that he did hand down, and he's paying for it. And that was his call. He had to have known that by sentencing him to 5 to 6 years, books are closed, I go home, dinner's on the table, life goes on. This wasn't the case for this judge.
And we thank everyone for the comments.
Sorry to disrupt
we
you.
appreciate you.
Thanks so much for watching the ABC 10 Information Network. If you want to see more stories just like this one, all you've got to do is click subscribe.